It's on Second Thought, episode 351, powered by Hook'em.com. And man, the football season is getting away from us. Here's the one thing, and we welcome our old friend Daniel Davis, the host of Longhorn Confidential and the beat writer for Texas football, women's basketball, and whatever else he wants to write. Is it getting away from us, or is it going to be longer than we think if the Texas Longhorns are as good as some people believe them to be, Danny?
I mean, it's kind of getting away from us if I'm in a dimly lit basketball workroom right now, which is what where I'm at. But I mean, this is always the busy time of the year for us with basketball and football kind of intermingling, and it could be that way for a couple months if this Texas team does what it's supposed to do. But as we're going to talk about today, one slip up, and I might be done in December. So
Oh
we'll see.
man. We don't want to go back to those days when we were just sitting around twiddling our thumbs, waiting on the basketball team to come back from a road trip because football sucked. But the Longhorns are, man, they're 9-1. And they're leading the SEC with Texas A&M. They get Kentucky Saturday, 2:30 p.m., senior day, DKR. It's going to be raucous. A really poor year from the Kentucky Wildcats. But Steve Sarkisian has been singing their praises. So much respect for Mark Stoops and blah, blah, blah. They're 1-4 in their last five games. And I know they almost beat Georgia, almost beat Georgia. So do you expect it to be a close game? I looked at a couple of Kentucky clips on YouTube, saw a little bit of 'em on SEC Network. I'm not impressed. Not impressed.
I don't expect it to be close, but at the same time, Steve's always gonna say the right things and not give any bulletin board material and you know the most important game or whatever he was saying on Monday because he respects the game and respects his other coaches too much. I mean, he's I just got done talking to Vic Schaefer and they just beat Tarleton State by 42 points and Vic couldn't have been nicer to Tarleton State talking about how good of a team this is going to be down the road. So these Texas coaches know what this is. They're not going to give any bulletin board material, but Texas should be able to win this game, and they should win it handily. But this Kentucky team has won some crazy games. They have beat Ole Miss. They played Georgia close. They played Tennessee within 10. Played Vanderbilt within 7, I think it was. So if you give them a chance, they'll keep in it. But Texas is better. This Kentucky offense is not good. They can play a little bit of defense, but Texas should win this one and win this one going away.
I think so too. Let's talk about the college football playoff rankings, Daniel. Texas comes in at number three, not a surprise, behind Oregon and Ohio State. But if the in the bracket they'd be number two because Ohio State would have to be bumped down to five since Oregon's projected to win the Big Ten. Hearing a lot of doubt coming from national pundits about the Horns. Oh, they haven't played anybody. Oh, they have an easy schedule. I think there's some two loss teams that are more deserving. Look what Georgia did to them, and Georgia's fighting for their lives. What do you make of that, Danny? I'm of the opinion you play who's on the schedule. And if that team's not very good, I don't know what Texas has to do with a team not being very good. Texas's job is to win games, and that's what they've done.
I mean, the pundits are right. Texas hasn't beat anyone. They have had an easy schedule. That's not Texas's problem. It's Texas's job to beat the teams that are in front of them. It is not Texas's fault that Michigan was not what we expected Michigan to be. It is not Texas's fault that Oklahoma came over to the SEC and completely soiled themselves in front of the entire conference for everyone to see. Texas, they have one loss in their schedule. It's not a bad loss. Georgia is currently in the playoff picture. There's some teams like Tennessee who's currently on the outside looking in. Beat Arkansas if you want to be on the inside. Tennessee, which Texas did. I'd be hard pressed to find another team that's currently outside the projection outside Tennessee that has a case. Colorado got boat race by Nebraska and is playing in a poor Big 12. Texas A&M lost big in South Carolina and has a chance if they really want to squeeze in this picture in 2 weeks to beat Texas and really force their way into this conversation. So I just don't buy it. I mean, I think it's a good talking point. Now, if Texas loses,
Oof.
and then we are talking about resume, I think that becomes a huger conversation. But as far as it is, Texas has one loss. I don't think any of these two loss teams behind them have an argument. I don't even think a team like SMU or BYU, although BYU is currently in as the Big 12 champion, really
I
have a
don't
case
agree
with
with that. I
with
got
one
Coach
loss.
Prime winning that one. I got Coach
So
winning Big 12 now.
I
Yeah.
think, Texas is taking care of business in front of it. It's not their fault. Other teams just haven't lived up to the schedule. We thought Texas had a kind of an easy SEC schedule going into the season, but we thought their overall schedule was fine. And the other teams just haven't lived up to it. And that is not the Longhorns' problem. And the teams that are behind them, they've lost a couple games and they had a chance to take care of their own business, then didn't. So kind of is what it is.
Tough. Just tough. Win the games. Win the games. Georgia's getting a lot of props. And, we got to credit Georgia for coming into our city and winning that game, Daniel. But we've seen Carson Beck look horrible. He's not the reason they won that game. He threw 3 picks in that game.
But
And so,
Georgia's in the playoffs. So even if you so are people complaining because Georgia just doesn't have a better seed? I mean, Georgia's in the
yeah,
playoff.
well, they're complaining because they think a 2-loss Georgia is better than a 1-loss Texas. And I'm sorry, I'm
They'll
going to
they'll
fight
have a
them.
they'll have a chance to prove it. I mean, they'll have a
Yeah,
chance to prove
prove
it
it
in the
on
playoffs.
Saturday
So
afternoons. Yeah, prove it on Saturdays. And those two teams might meet in Atlanta. That's going to be a home game for Georgia if that happens. I just think that the Horns have a pathway. I think they're going to work Kentucky by at least 3 touchdowns, and that's what the point spread is. I think they're going to go into College Station and beat Texas A&M. I think this defense is built for the road. They travel well. They don't they don't they don't panic when things get tough. And as long as that defense is playing like it's ranking, which is number one in the country, the Longhorns going to be in some games. I mean, if you lose by 15, that's considered a blowout. I mean, they don't get beat like that. So I think that loss was more of a product of the offense breakdowns, the offensive line not blocking, and we'll see if that's fixed because I'm sure Mark Stoops is going to do some blitzing this week. He's got nothing to lose, Daniel. They're coming after Quinn Ewers and company.
absolutely. I mean, this Texas team knows, excuse me, what's in front of them. Kentucky is, they're playing to get to a bowl game. They have to win out to get to a bowl game. I think they have like a 6 or 7 season streak of reaching bowls. And so, I mean, it's not like they don't have anything to play for. And obviously, the Aggies would love nothing more than to
Wow.
ruin the Longhorns' championship hopes on the return of that rivalry and insert themselves back in the playoff picture. So even though Texas will be favored the next 2 weeks, they should be favored in College Station. They're heavily favored this week. It's not like the teams they're playing don't are just going to roll over and die. I mean, Texas should win both those games, but they're going to have to work for it. They're not going to be given those 2 victories.
Daniel, what a great senior class we've covered. I mean, these guys, there are so many guys that have come in here. They went through the hard times of 5 and 7 in 2021. You're talking about guys like Jake Majors, Jade Barron Sorrell, Gunnar Helm. Guys like that have been through the rigors. Big Alfred Collins, Big Vernon Broughton. Those guys have been through it. And here they are with a chance to make some real history at this program. I'm going to ask you, besides Jade Barron, who's the unquestioned leader on this team, having an All-American season, what other two seniors do you think turned in the kind of performance that will resonate with this fan base for the next few years to come?
I don't know if this one's going to necessarily resonate with the fan base because I think he's been kind of overlooked the entire season, and people like that tend to get forgotten. But I mean, Gunnar Helms had himself a
He's been
season. I
great. Oh
mean,
my God, he's been great,
you're
Dan.
probably, I think he's still leading the team in receptions. There was a stretch with
And
Arch
yards.
when
Yes.
Arch was in there where he wasn't really getting targeted because Arch was throwing the ball downfield, and Quinn has favored him a lot more in the passing game. But we went into the season knowing that they didn't have Jatavian Sanders, kind of wondering what Gunner was going to be. I think we all expected him to produce and to take a step forward, but I don't think any of us saw him stepping forward as much as he has and becoming as reliable a target as he's been this season. So that's been something to definitely, remember and appreciate if you're a Texas fan. And then, we mentioned Jake Majors. I mean, 51 starts at center on this offensive line, dating back to Tom Herman's coaching staff bringing him in, and then Steve Sarkisian and staff liking him and just sticking with him. And
And
so,
stick with
51
him.
straight starts. That's fifth all time in Texas. He has a chance if Texas goes on a run to set the school record for starts. That's just impressive at that center position. And I think he's been another underappreciated guy that's really stepped up.
I'm going to give Jake Majors his flowers right now. And he once you get him talking, he gives you gold. Now, when those two guys got hurt, those two running backs got hurt, Christian Clark and CJ Baxter, before the season, those guys got hurt. Jake Majors walked into that running back room and said, "All right, who's got to step up? We're supposed to be one of the best running back rooms in the country. Who's going to step up?" That is leadership, Danny. That is a senior leader challenging his guys. He is the leader of that offensive line, and he's challenging these guys to step up because he knows without a running game that the offense is not going to click. And what have you gotten? You've gotten Quintravian Wisner elevated his game. He is the starting running back now. You got Jadon Blue is finally rediscovered his groove in the last couple of games. And you got the freshman, Jarek Gibson, who's their power short yardage guy when they need him. So I think that Jake Majors' leadership is probably one of the most untold stories, and is probably one that I'm going to tell sometime in this postseason. Hopefully, they get on a great run. But I think him, and I love what Barron Sorrell has done. I love what Barron Sorrell has done his last year. Barron Sorrell has elevated his game. The sack numbers, only 3.5 sacks, Daniel, not great, but he's been a consistent pest in the backfield. He's gotten tackles for loss, and he's been one of the OG hype men, along with John A. Barron, running out alongside Steve Sarkisian and the players. This is not us just spewing opinion. These are who the players are telling us are the leaders of this team. And without that kind of leadership, man, where would they be? And do you agree? I know they've got some great young players. I think this is Sarkeesian's best shot right now, this season, with a senior laden locker room to win it all. I don't know that they win it all with a first year starter next year, but they've got a lot of boxes checked right now, Daniel, to make a serious postseason run.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, with the way college football is, you could hit the transfer portal and completely bring in a stacked team next year to replace the holes that you have and help Arch out. However, Arch is gonna needed to be helped. But obviously, I think this is his most talented team since he's got to Texas and his best shot so far. Who knows what this team looks like next year, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road. But obviously, you want, if you have this much senior leadership, this much experience, you want to take advantage of it because those COVID seniors, those 6 year seniors like David Benda, they're going to be a thing of the past. It's not going to be a thing anymore. You're going to start having, this 3 year guys are going to be the oldest guys on the team because of the transfer portal, because of NIL. So you got to take advantage of the senior leadership, this veteran experience while you have it. And Steve has plenty of it. And let's see what they can do with it these next couple weeks.
Let's talk about QB1 before we get out of here. So Quinn Ewers hadn't showed up to a Monday availability for like 3 straight weeks. Is that right, Daniel? And so Saturday night in Fayetteville, he comes in after the game, answers the questions, and as he's walking out, I look over, I go, "Hey Quinn, I'll see you on Monday." And he looks over at me, he goes, "Yeah, maybe." QB1 shows up Monday, albeit for only like a 5-minute presser. They got him out of there pretty quick. Our colleague and OG Kirk Bowles asked Quinn, "Is this your last regular season home game at Texas?" And Quinn kind of demurred. We'll see. We'll see. Here's a question for the beat writer of the University of Texas Longhorns at the Austin American-Statesman. Would Quinn Ewers be welcomed back with open arms if he decided that he wanted one more year of college ball, do you think that he would be able to come back to the University of Texas in 2025?
I mean, Quinn is Steve's guy, so he may be welcomed back by the coaching staff, but this fan base would revolt. And I mean, if Quinn comes back, that means Arch is probably leaving. You'd have to imagine. I can't imagine Arch, as much as he's been patient, as much as he said all the right things, and comes from the Manning family, all that stuff. I can't imagine he's signing up to sit for 3 straight years. So I'd imagine that the fan base who's ready for the Arch chapter, even if you're the biggest Quinn Ewers fan and you appreciate what he's done, I think the fans are ready for that next chapter after Quinn does what Quinn does this season. I'm sure the fans will be glad to wish him well and root for him at the next level. But I think if Quinn's like, I'm back, that's not going to be treated as well as maybe inside the coaching room. So um, I didn't have a problem with Quinn not saying this is my last home game. I think
That's
if
his
he
moment whenever
if he
he's
does
ready.
that, yeah, he has his moment. Put on social media. Don't steal the spotlight from the seniors. It's not like Quinn's going to get a run out on Saturday. So,
He
but I
may.
can't.
What if he
I can't.
does?
He might. I mean, that
He
would be,
might.
excuse me, a little surprising. But I just can't imagine that. I think Quinn's probably ready to turn the page and move on. I think this coaching staff's ready to, get Arch in there and see what they have there. And the fan base is definitely, as our analytic metrics will tell you, as any fan with eardrums at DKR whenever Arch gets in, can tell you. I think they're ready too. That's not to say that Quinn isn't appreciated and that these Texas fans hate Quinn, but I think it's probably time for the next chapter and to move on to what's next. And but that's hopefully, if you're a Texas fan, that's hopefully in on January 21st, and instead of a conversation for the next couple weeks. But we'll have to see.
They love Quinn, but they don't adore him like they adore Arch. And let me tell you something, Quinn Ewers has put it down for this program. Quinn Ewers has a chance to do something that Vince didn't do, that Colt didn't do, that Major Applewhite, Chris Sims, none of them did it. He has a chance to lead Texas to consecutive conference championships. Those other legends never won more than one championship in conference. And Quinn Ewers has a good chance to do it. And he was a 12-yard pass away from maybe winning a natty last year because we know that Michigan wasn't going to run wild on Tavondre Sweat and Fat Mac Murphy like they did on Washington. But that's neither here nor there. I believe that Quinn is leaving. I believe that Quinn will enter the NFL draft. I believe he's got to play a lot better than he has to get back into the first round. I looked at Mel Kiper's rankings. He's fifth among quarterbacks that are eligible for the draft, right ahead of Carson Beck. Those guys were running like 2-3 earlier, so they've kind of fallen back. But there's plenty of time because we're looking at maybe what, 5 more games, Daniel, that they may end up playing 4 or 5 more games.
It's six. If they win a championship, it's going to be
Six if
six,
they get to the national title.
seven possibly if they fall into that first round. So there's lots of time left.
So there's plenty of time left for Quinn to up his game. I don't think he's had the season that he'd hoped to have coming back. But you know what? If they win, those numbers are going to be there, those accolades are going to be there, and he's going to have time to show the scouts that those preseason rankings were not unfounded. So that's going to do it for our chat. Daniel, always a pleasure putting in that extra work for the UT women against Tarleton State, a main event in any arena in America. How loud was it with those 12, those 9 and 10-year-old elementary school kids screaming? How loud was it at the Mood today?
What'd you say?
Exactly. I knew you were going there. You, thank you. You're not dumb, but you just might be hard of hearing. You just might be hard of hearing. But enjoy the rest of your day. We will see you on Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Senior Day. We're going to get there early because we got to eat, Daniel. We got to eat. Senior Day at DKR, Kentucky v. Texas. Always a pleasure, my brother. I appreciate you.
Also, Cat Grizz on Saturday. Go Grizz.